guys gave us the answers for what happened on the stretch run. In your estimation, what do you think what is the answer? What do you think happened for that to happen? And is this locker room okay?
Yeah, the locker room is fine. Like I said earlier in the season, or after the season, whatever, I just said players wasn't executing, like I said in the interview. That's what it came down to. I think the media kind of ran with the coaches' fault. The coaches didn't prepare. I never blame the coaches. I'm not the person to blame the coach. I'm not trying to blame anyone. You know, I'm the guy who's going to look in the mirror and going to challenge everybody else. Like, it was the players not executing, and that's what happened. And if you look back closely, I said it a few seconds ago that we were playing like the best team in the league. No, we wasn't. We may have the best record in the league, but we wasn't playing like the best team in the league. It was like that all year.
Yeah.
But we was scratching away getting wins. And so when stuff started to really unravel and stuff like that, stuff started to not go as planned, then you saw what was happening. And then, like I said earlier, it was a domino effect, and it was trying to stop the bleed, and it was just everything was just going too fast at that point.
I'm curious, Kellen Moore, new offensive coordinator, has he reached out, and how are you excited to work with Kellen Moore, and what do you think he can kind of bring to this offense?
Yeah, I'm very excited to work with him. I've talked to him a couple times, but we're not talking about that. You guys want to talk about what happened, so let's talk about what happened.
Good for A.J. Brown, man. A.J. Brown interview. Let me tell y'all something, man. I've been around here, Eagles fan, man, and I've said this plenty of times. We talk about going back to the late 80s. You know, I started watching football in the early 80s, but I really became an Eagles fan big time when Randall Cunningham came over. A little bit before that, I mean, you know, my mom and all of them, they were into Ron Jaworski and Denver Mill and all that, but this ain't about me. And WIP, you know, been doing their thing since Angelo Cataldi came. They had him, Brookshire, Howard Eskin. I remember all that. All right, so you are talking to someone who does remember that and does understand that WIP is a big part of what is the climate in Philadelphia in terms of sports. Right? Not everybody understands that. But this right here was a monumental thing that A.J. Brown did. Monumental. Because in all my years of listening, it's rare. It's rare that these guys, you know, get called to account and get called to the carpet. It's rare that in the middle of a show, player calls up, you know, and wants to talk to them and address them on their stuff. You see, I understand the whole idea of sports media and the role that it plays in sports. Like, their idea is to drive the interest. Problem with those guys is they don't really care about whether it's negative or positive. All they care about is that it's interest. And when the team does not win a Super Bowl or don't win the ultimate goal, what they're going to do is just push the negatives. They want to know why this didn't happen. What is the issue? They want to dig deeper. Is there something wrong with the locker room? Is there an issue with the coaches? Is there an issue with ownership? This is just pretty much what they do because they feel this drives interest. It sparks conversation. What they don't understand is that all fans are not on board with it. Now, they're looking at different things from what we're looking at. They're looking at how many callers they're getting. They're looking at their rating numbers. And that's ultimately what they're going to look at. They're not really going to care about the sentiment of some or the sentiment of anyone. They're going to talk about it so long as you call them up. Now, this is where they can get in trouble. This is where they can get in trouble, though, and get jammed up. The radio is, by and large, a means of the past. The radio was very, very important in the era where you had, the newspapers, USA Today and Sports Illustrated. So this is where they got to be careful. They're going to have to make sure that they successfully transition over into a way of dealing with sports that allows them to succeed with the newer generation, the Gen Zs and the Gen Xs, right? because the baby boomer generation, those guys who went through the years of the '70s Eagles and the early '80s and so on, they're going to die off eventually. Not too many people remember Pete Retzlaff and the Dutchman and Tommy McDonald and all of them in the '60s. Many of us don't remember the '60s team. So this is what they have to be real about. The Eagles fan may be changing. They might want to hear more positivity. And now they have more competition with YouTube, for example, and other platforms like this, where people have a choice now. Do I want to call in, do I want to turn the radio on and listen to Ike Reese and this guy, Jack Fritz, who is horrible, by the way, to me, Jack Fritz. I like Ike Reese, but Jack Fritz, do I want to listen to them? Or can I just go turn on the Lord Brunson? Or, a Simone with the Sports, or, Philly 500, or, an Eagle Owl, or somebody like that. This is the reality. People are going to have a choice. So WIP has got to be very careful with this here, especially with A.J. Brown confronting them. Because what I'm noticing here online is you see the division here. You see the Dan Sileo. He comes on and he starts his little stuff where he's kind of like coming at A.J. Brown negatively because he's representing the old establishment and their ways, of just being hypercritical and, all of that stuff, right? Well, Dan is confusing to me because he doesn't know what he wants to do. Does he want to be critical towards the ownership? Does he want to be critical towards the player? Does he want to be critical towards, the coaching staff? Like, what do you want to do, Dan? That's my issue with him. Usually pick one. Pick a way that you want to go. But what we're finding is that fans are more likely to support the player, especially a great player like an A.J. Brown. In what he's doing because he's productive. He's a productive player for the team. They're more likely to support him. When it comes to Jalen Hurts, the fans are more likely to look at it as, maybe an off year or a bad part of the year. They don't want to go so deep into it's just he's falling apart. It's about to implode. It's Carson Wentz 2.0. They don't want to go there. They're willing to be a little bit more patient. This fan base is a little bit more sensible. And there's reasons for it. See, the baby boomer generation, who was all gloom and doom and everything, they went from like the 1960 championship. And then they went through the whole decade of the 70s, whole decade of the 80s, whole decade of the 90s, whole decade of the 2010s, all the way to 2017 before they saw a Super Bowl. Right? So now, but Gen Zs and them, they remember 2017, it's not that long ago. And maybe they were Eagles fans since 2015, 2010, right? So they're a little bit more positive. They actually just saw the team in the Super Bowl 2 years ago, right? Or the year before last year, I'm sorry. So they're a little bit more positive. So WIP better be very careful, man. They don't lose this fan base to YouTube. They don't use this fan base to the podcast genre. And you're noticing what they have to do now. Actually, they have to make sure they put content on YouTube to stay relevant. Think about it. Nobody's listening to the radio. And 97.5, for example, another channel, they're awful, by the way. They don't know what they're doing, owned by ESPN. They broadcast a lot of their shows on YouTube, because they see, man, that they're becoming more and more obsolete and irrelevant, So all this negativity and everything like that, man, they better be very careful. So A.J. Brown put them on notice, and this is kind of dividing everything. All of the whole YouTube and social media platform content creators are in support of him. The radio stations, they're going to probably try to kind of be against him because they feel like he came at the media in general so they have to try to support it. You heard some of the weak things they were pushing. You know, the media, we're just speaking for the people. No, you're not. No, you're not. You know, you guys are oftentimes running with articles being put out there by members of your own sector. You know, like whether it's a Marcus Hayes or any of these other guys who write these articles where they're not citing their sources, where they're claiming that, you know, AJ Brown was a problem, or that Jalen Hurts was a problem, or whatever, what have you. And then you guys at WIP you're taking and you're just running with it. You're starting whole conversations with it. And then callers call up and feed into it. And then you're not correcting them or you're not setting them straight. You're just letting, you know, a little flame, little match flame kindle into a bonfire by throwing more and more wood on it. This is actually what your shows are doing. And you see when these players, if they come and they start to question your credibility, and you end up looking silly because on one hand, you're running with these narratives that are baseless on one hand, that these players are denying, and then on the other hand, you're not actually speaking with the voice of the fans, because YouTube is proving you wrong. Like Dan Celio's up here, you know, going at AJ Brown, and in the whole comment section, they're killing him, telling him they'll run him out of town, and you know nobody's interested in what you're saying. You know, he turned around and he started having 50 people listening. Yeah, you're gonna learn. You'll be out of here real quick because somebody's paying you a salary. So you better give them the content they want. You know, this is real. You know, I guarantee you, if there's certain content creators that we have that if they were to go live for 4 hours alongside, say, a WIP show, some of them will beat the WIP show out. I guarantee you. They'll beat them out. I have no doubt about this. You know, so this is real, man. You know, big up to AJ Brown, man. You know, call up like a man. Dealt with it. You know, talk face to face, talk man to man, you know, and you saw it there. You know, I kind of handled this but Jack Fritz's voice cracking, you know, because now you are confronted, you know, and things can change when you confront it, right? You know, heck of a day, man. So that's all I got for you fans, man. Or for you people. I don't have fans, I'm sorry. So I got for you Eagle fans. All right. So with that, man, peace.